No Rest for the Weekend's coverage of the Tribeca Film Festival is sponsored by Black Magic Design, the world's highest quality products for the feature film, post and broadcast industries. blackmagicdesign.com.
Hi, Dana. How are you?
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for joining us today. We're talking about the film 1-800 on Our Own about the inimitable Annie DiFranco. How did you come to this project?
So I had a chance to meet Ani. She was playing in New York in Woodstock, and I hung out with her before she played a concert. And we just immediately hit it off. I had such an affinity for her. She's funny and foul-mouthed, tiny and badass. And then I saw her concert, and she totally slayed it. Here she is, a woman in her 50s, and she's a total rock star. And then I had the opportunity to wade into the audience and talk to the fans, and I was really struck by how they were fans like none other. I mean, so many people, and of course, over the course of making this film, have told me the same thing, that Ani has changed like the trajectory of their lives and turned them into activists and saved them from feeling very isolated after abortions and rapes and other issues that women were going through, and just had a huge empowering effect on people and creating community that no other musician I had ever known have. And I was really struck by that. So anyways, she's a great character. She's her backstory was fascinating. Her impact is amazing. And her story is so timely. And the message that she has at this time is really critical. So I it was didn't have to really think long and hard about doing it. It's great. It's obviously a great story.
Looking over some of your other films, you have chronicled some very socially conscious and impactful people, sometimes controversial people. How do you feel Ani ranks among some of your other subject matters in terms of her lasting geopolitical footprint?
Ani's story is just really critical right now in terms of her message, the trailblazing that she's done on so many different levels. I really focused on her work as a feminist, is kind of the North Star for her as a person, as an activist and an artist. She's done a lot of different things with, environmental, human rights, criminal justice, but I wanted to focus on that. We're at a really critical time right now, not just in this country with this upcoming election, but also in the world. I think right now, in terms of women's reproductive freedom, it's really important that activists like Ani and their stories are out there. There's 14 states now, right, where abortion is not available to women. So yeah, I think her message, I think her impact, I think it's a great time for this film to be out there.
Speaking of the timing of the film, it looks like it was shot either during or near the pandemic.
Yeah.
So what was the post-production process like to get it out at such a very important point in time, that the one we're in right now?
Documentary is real life. And so timing is very rarely things that you have any control over. I think I was really lucky to start filming with Ani right before the pandemic, and to have the opportunity to be embedded with her during the pandemic, just because it was a fascinating and challenging time for her.
Mm-hmm.
If I had been on the road with her post-pandemic or pre-pandemic, it would have been a totally different movie. But I think, once again, the struggles that she was going through have a larger impact towards a lot of people, because I think it's very relatable what she was going through. I mean, during COVID, millions of people, millions of women stopped working because they had to. It was that impossible equation that she's wrestling with, that so many people, women in particular, wrestle with, is how do you school your kids full time, and how do you work full time, and how do you be an artist and all of that? You know what I mean? So that that conflict was really interesting to document. And I think it makes her, she's a very relatable character in that, because she's going through what so many other women were going through at that time. So I think she's very relatable.
I definitely agree with that. I will say, longtime fan, so I was very
Okay,
excited to see this film.
great.
There's a moment in the movie when she's struggling with a particularly uh, disappointing setback, and the film cuts to her son being a very disruptive force of nature. Was that a narrative choice, or were you just documenting what you saw?
He's just a boy. Do you know what I mean? And she's just a mom. I am the mother of a boy as well. It's just what boys do. So yeah, that's what happens. That's what it's like to work at home during COVID, when you're trying to do whatever, whether you're a musician or whatever work you're doing. Your son is, smashing boxes. That's what 7-year-olds do, you know? And so, yeah, no, I'm just filming what's going on. In defense of Dante, he, he's not trying to be disruptive. He's just being a 7-year-old,
Hmm. Gotcha. The title of the film, 1-800 on Her Own, really does hone in on the DIY aspect of how Ani DiFranco has created music, distributed music, connected with her fans. And in this film, we see her venture into collaboration, and there's a really heartbreaking rejection right at the beginning of the third act. Um, you could have called this film anything. Why did you settle on the 1-800 on your own?
I think it really represents who Ani is, She's a scrappy mother, and she does things on her own. And whatever barriers in her way, it's not going to stop her. She's going to do it on her own. It is her 1-800 number. You can actually use that number and call it. It has followed her throughout her entire career. And we liked it. We just thought it was really representative of her. And it was unique. We wrestled with different titles, and this is the one that stuck, and I'm happy with it. It's cool. I think, it's who she is. Also, it's cool. How many titles can you dial in 1-800 number? Call it, get some merch,
Right? Perfect cross marketing opportunity there.
Yeah, yeah. Talk to Bubba. He's on the other end of the line.
um, so I was interested that again, there's a lot of talk of collaboration, sometimes how it works, sometimes how it doesn't. But there wasn't any mention of her work with noted folk poet Utah Phillips. There were parts of her career that I thought I would see illustrated in this that weren't. What were the decisions behind those exclusions?
The film is 78 minutes long, and Ani is in her mid-50s. That's a long life. I could have made, to be perfectly honest, I probably could have made a 5-hour, documentary. There was so many things that I could have put in. There was all kinds of things that ended up on the editing room floor, and that was just one of them. There were so many. So you just have to make choices as to what goes in, what goes out. You're looking for a strong story arc. You're looking for a certain flow. You're looking, so there's a million choices to be made, and people don't make the cut, Some of them was more painful than others. But yeah, there's a great recording session in New Orleans with Utah, which is beautiful. It was in there. It's not in there now, though. Sorry. Another movie. It's a whole nother movie.
There you go.
Yeah.
You've got the B-side already.
Yeah, totally.
So Ani DiFranco came to power in New York City. So what is it like bringing this film to Tribeca, bringing her to Tribeca for its premiere?
It's awesome. It is the perfect place for it. She's also on Broadway right now, so it's super convenient. We're doing this tonight because it's her off night. She had 2 shows yesterday and has a show tomorrow. So I think it's really great. I think it's perfect for her. She's from Buffalo, and she lived in the city back in the day. So, it's her haunting grounds, and it feels really appropriate. It feels great. We're really excited to be in Tribeca.
Well, it looks like we are out of time, and I think that's a great spot to end on. Thank you so much for speaking with us, Dana, and best of luck with the premiere.
Thank you so much.
This is the BTRP Media Network.